It's kind of like a pounce and chase game. We don't do tug of war or hands-on play with the wolves because their play can turn into dominance pretty quickly. So this kind of pounce and chase is a good game for Mosca. He has been one of the best playing wolves we've had here at the park. He just really enjoys it. It's the best when he's not expecting it, and he gets a real thrill out of being pounced, and then he wants to pounce you back. So some of the treats in Megan's treat pouch are some of the ones I mentioned earlier. I think she has some cheese, hot dog today. I think they have a little bit of liver paste for their training as well today, and then some dog treats. So what she's trying to do now is see if she can train him or ask him into the pool. He is considering that option.
Well, that hair, he'll be happy to get cooled down.
So you guys saw he did start to take steps in that direction. She's doing what we call approximating behavior. Approximations are essentially baby steps that lead you into what that end or goal behavior is. The goal would be that he got completely in the pool, but he doesn't know that behavior. So just expecting that he gets in there first time isn't necessarily going to be successful. So she is what we're calling reinforcing those approximations or baby steps and hopefully build on that behavior until she gets to her end goal, which would be him getting in the pool. Now, I did mention positive reinforcement earlier. That does mean if the wolves do what we ask and they're successful in those behaviors, they're going to earn some sort of reward. But I would like to note, guys, that that's the only training that we used here. The wolves are not punished. There's no negative reinforcement. So if the wolf decides they don't want to participate or they don't want to do something, or perhaps they try and they're just incorrect, they're not going to hear words like no, bad, or wrong. They aren't going to be forced into that behavior. If we try a couple times and they're not successful, we'll just move on and try something different. We may decide at some point to come back to what they weren't successful with and tackle it in a different way. So we can set up the situation differently to hopefully set them up for success. Anything that we can do to hopefully make their interaction with that scenario a little bit more positive and allow them to get reinforcement in those instances. But you guys will definitely notice that they are never punished. We have our idea of how our schedule will run for the day, but ultimately always do whatever it is that the wolves decide they're willing to participate in for the day. You guys might be noticing Mosca has a very beautiful fur coat. My favorite part of his fur coat is those really orange colored backs of his ears. He has lightened in coloration throughout his aging process. He is 11 years old this year. He's still quite colorful for his age. Mosca and most gray wolves have the same kind of color pattern and phenotype that you see him with right now. And it's got a little bit of a funny word for it. It's called agouti. The agouti fur pattern is pretty unique in that if you were to pluck one individual strand of hair off of his body, you would notice that there are 3 different bands of color on that one piece of hair. So you're not going to see that in most mammals. Definitely don't see it in us unless we dye our hair a funny color, something different than what our natural color is. But you will see that with these gray wolves, and that gives him that very mottled camouflage appearance to his fur coat. This is definitely going to help him to blend in with his environment and go undetected by his prey.
He's going in.
Now, not all gray wolves. You guys can see that she wasn't up there to ask him for that behavior, but he offered it. So she fed it. That is a reinforceable moment. If he can start relating to, I get in this pool, I get food, then hopefully he'll start offering that more in future sessions and she can start building on that behavior. But back to the fur. So there are some other phenotypes that you might see with gray wolves. If you guys have ever seen wolves that are completely black, that is a phenotype called black-phased. Only about 2 to 4% of the wild population is naturally born with that black-phased coloration. But in zoo populations, we do see that's a little bit higher. It's probably been selectively bred for. And if you guys are familiar with an all-white wolf, you're probably seeing one of 2 things. He thought she was going to play with them. You're probably seeing one of 2 things. You're either seeing a subspecies of the gray wolf, known as the Arctic wolf, or you're seeing an individual that has gotten a little bit older and has pretty much grown in only white hair in their old age. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Oh, beautiful place.
So the question was, how long do they live? Out in the wild, wolves typically only average around 5 to 8 years. In zoological settings, they definitely can live a little bit longer. 10 to 15 could be expected. So Mosca is going to be 12 years old coming up this next spring. So he's definitely kind of within that average lifespan. I think our average right here at Busch Gardens right now is right around 12, 13 years. Yeah, the scratches are good. So although Mosca looks a little dog-like right now while he's getting